Hello, hello, and here we are. Here we are again. Welcome everybody to Satsang. Special welcome to anybody who is new or has just kind of joined in recently. Perhaps this whole idea, move the mic over a little bit, make sure you can all hear me really good. The whole Satsang is about an inner inquiry. It's a very old tradition, going back thousands of years, the Advaita Vedanta thread in Hinduism, and which got picked up and became Zen in Buddhism. And Satsang is simply a dialogue. It's a question and answer. And the essence of it, though, is the answer is always the same. The answer is you. The answer to every question you have is you. The thing is, for many on the spiritual path, we start out, because all of us come out of various kinds of religious traditions of knowledge and education and understanding. There's kind of this assumption that truth is somehow an insight or a concept or an idea that is grasped, and that then, no, now I've got it, now I've got the truth. Even the search for yourself, who am I? What is the truth of my being? It ends up being conceptual, this idea as to, I'm going to finally get the idea of, this is who I am. And it's going to be a very solid, knowable object with attributes and characteristics, and then it's going to be satisfied. But if any of you have been on this path for any length of time and headed in that direction, you know perfectly well that those answers are never satisfying. There's just something missing. Because truth isn't a concept. Truth is life. In order for truth to be understood, it needs to be understood as yourself, a living, breathing entity, a living, breathing reality. So you don't need to know the truth, because you are the truth. Thoughts come and go, concepts come and go, religions come and go, dharmas come and go, teachings come and go, all of them, including these that I'm laying out now. 10, 20 years from now, they go, oh, how quaint, right? That all comes and goes because it is conceptual. Now, it may very much carry the spirit and the energy of truth in it, right? But the costume truth wears is not truth. How you appear is not truth. This body through which you are experiencing is not the truth. The truth is you. So you are the answer that you're seeking, but not the you think you are. And therein lies the whole thing. We have gained all sorts of ideas and concepts and associations and all sorts of things. This self-image has built up in our minds, and we really think that's who we are. I am this. I'm a man. I'm a woman. I'm old. I'm young. I'm Asian. I'm Native American. I'm white. I'm black. Or some kind of nationality. And I'm Irish. I'm Jewish. I'm Indian. These are all definitions that are transient and temporary, and they all belong to the body. They all belong to this identification with the body that started very, very early on in our lives. Whereas the body is a vehicle of consciousness, it got mistaken to be my very self. So no matter what idea of yourself you get, it will only be an idea. Every idea of you is like a video of you, right? It's not you. Thinking of you, the thought of you is no more you than a video of the Great Wall of China is the Great Wall of China. You don't see something on YouTube and go, oh, I visited the Great Wall of China. And you go, wow, that'd be a great place to visit. Wouldn't that be cool? Because you want to experience the real thing. Well, the image of you in a mirror and the image of you you hold in your mind will never be you. They'll just be an image. Satsang is a communion with the truth of your being. That's what it means. Sat is truth or being, and Sang is communion or community. And so I invite you during our time together here to recognize that behind all your questions is the desire for a direct connection to yourself as the truth. Not someone who has gained the truth or knows the truth or is even getting close to the truth, but you as the truth. You are that. It is not something you know. It is what you are. And it doesn't even matter whether you know it or not. So, I see questions started early. There were questions here before I even arrived, which is very gratifying to see, by the way. Hopefully I don't make too much noise. I've got my little powders in here and wheatgrass and all sorts of good stuff. So, forgive the noise when I shake it to keep everything mixed up. So, hello everyone. Welcome to Satsang. It's very gratifying for me to have you all here. There's my good friend Faith in Algeria, Penny in British Columbia, Roberto in Madrid. Hello, Roberto. Roberto says, I feel very confused, empty, lonely, dead, kind of a ballast or burden for my wife and myself. Like I can't move forward, like no gas in my tank that I can start the engine. Roberto, if you and I were sitting together, having a quiet chat, a friendly chat between friends, over coffee or something, and I asked you, where is it you're trying to get to? That you don't feel you're there. This thing you're reaching for, that you just don't feel like you have the energy to get there. Now don't type it in here, because you don't need to put it out there. I want this to be a contemplation for you. Everybody comes to these places in their life where you just don't think, you feel stuck, you feel lost, you feel like all the energy, all the motivation is gone. You're never going to get anywhere. And oftentimes that feeling can be there even when there's no place to get to, when everything is just fine. We've all been raised with this idea that somehow, wherever it is you are, it's not enough. No matter where it is. I don't care, if you're in a perfect relationship, something's missing. I got lots and lots of money in the bank. Something's missing. Something's missing. We've all been indoctrinated to feel lacking and empty. It kind of comes with the territory. Our parents felt that way, their parents felt that way, and on and on and on it goes. It's kind of this generational and cultural neuroses that has been there for as long as we can remember. It's kind of driven things home. What is it that you think is going to be this magic bullet that somehow makes everything okay? See if you can find that. Or is it, and you might find something. And then question, is this really it? Really dig. And then look and see if maybe, if you can't find something like that, maybe this feeling of something missing is a lie, an illusion, a mistake. just kind of a conditioned pattern you fell into and took it to be for real. It requires an inquiry, because notice all the words you're using, right? Confused. Confused about what? You know you're here. You know you are. You know you have a body. You know you have a wife. You have a house around you. You have things. What are you confused about? What is this chronic confusion? Right? Empty, lonely, dead. Right? Look at all of these feelings. Don't take them on face value, because what happens is we get feelings like this, and everybody does. We assume there must be something wrong, and I've got to find some solution. Somewhere there's got to be a way out of the feelings. Nobody ever stops to question whether or not these feelings are legitimate. Where did they actually come from? Why is it that I'm feeling this way? Well, the mind will say, you're feeling this way because something's missing. And then you ask, well, what's missing? And I say, I don't know. You got to find it. That's the argument that goes on. That's the inner dialogue, because the feeling that something is missing is an illusion. There isn't anything missing. That's the actual truth. But just saying that isn't enough. You've got to explore. You've got to look. Find out what it is that's missing, and find out if there really is something missing, or if there's just a feeling that there is. And in fact, there isn't. This is an inner exploration that I'm going to invite you to do, and do it really seriously. Because you've had those experiences when all of this has fallen away, and there's just been kind of this blissful moment. You've told me about them, right? But then the clouds roll back in again. And they're going to continue to roll back in again, right? They're not going to go away overnight. They're only going to go away as you begin to see through them, and they no longer intimidate you. So that's my recommendation for you, my dear friend. Happy girl. Hi, G. Hi, happy girl. Can you say something about forgiveness and its power? Thanks. Well, I sure can. Perhaps you've all heard me talk about forgiveness before. Forgiveness is not what people think it is. You know, people say, you know, my mother abused me, and somebody says, oh, just forgive her, right? And it's like, there's a certain diminishment in you, like, you know, get over it, don't make a big deal out of it, right? But, you know, when there's something that someone has done to us that we need to forgive, before we can actually come to the place of forgiveness. And by the way, forgive really isn't a verb. It's not something you do. Forgiveness is a state you arrive at through wisdom and understanding. You're going, okay, I forgive you. That's the sense that it has come to mean, commonly, especially in the West, that forgiveness means pardon. It means you're guilty, you did something bad, you deserve to be punished, but I'm letting you off the hook. That's what forgiveness has come to mean in our Western culture, especially in religious terms of God forgiving you and that sort of thing. You deserve hell, but I'm letting you off the hook. Now, we're dealing with somebody else, especially if it's stuff that's happened to us, like traumatic stuff from childhood and the like, that was done to us by our caregivers. Right? The first thing that needs to happen is there be an acknowledgement that it actually happened. One of the ways in which, you know, abusive parents and partners and that sort of thing, or mostly when we're younger, get away with it is because they intimidate the child, and the child, of course, assumes that their caregiver can do no wrong, they're God's, and therefore it must be me. And therefore they diminish the actual impact of the experience, and it becomes a self-blaming thing. So forgiveness first has to start with a recognition that, my God, yes, this really did happen. Now, when that happens, oftentimes there's then a sense that anger can come up, rage, blame, recrimination, all very natural, right? Don't stuff any of that, because, of course, that anger about the way one had been treated or something, especially as a child, is not allowed to be expressed. If you're abused, it gets worse if you express any anger about it. You just have to take it. This is the traumatic moment. So this recognition that this really happened, it's kind of like you become your own enlightened witness. That there's like something watching the circumstances that say, yes, it did happen the way you think it did. And so the rage, the anger, all of that becomes legitimate. Now, if you stop there, you'll now have this bitter taste in your mouth. It'll be full of judgment and blame, and you'll never arrive at that state of forgiveness. Understanding has to emerge. And the understanding is this. Nobody purposely acts abusive, nasty, evil, demeaning, any of the qualities that we associate with acts that need to be forgiven. Nobody does that consciously. It seems that way. It seems like they're making a choice. But if you understand the nature of conditioning and the conditioned mind and the way it works, you begin to realize that what you're experiencing is simply the conditioned patterns that in fact happened to them. Your parents treated you in a particular way because their parents treated them that way, because their parents treated them that way, and on and on and on and on it goes. We live in a time where there's an awakening taking place that is beginning to realize these patterns that have gone from generation to generation, and they can't continue anymore. There's an awakening because before it was just completely unconscious. All the studies they've done of really violent criminals, they found that these criminals who committed these horribly violent acts all had it done to them. They witnessed that kind of violence, or that kind of violence was inflicted on them. The whole nervous system, that's all they knew how to be, right? And so much rage, so much anger underneath that it would just explode. They don't need to be in prison. They need help. They need this. They need a genuine forgiveness. And when you begin to realize that, you realize that nobody's purposely evil. Nobody's purposely abusive. They simply don't know any better. They're acting out their conditioning because they have no consciousness. Or minimum, just enough to know they exist. They have no self-awareness. Now, when you begin to see that, you realize they really had no choice. They weren't participating in it. They were completely robotic. Right? And the recognition of that means that you are no longer being governed by that robot. You have begun to wake up. Now, interestingly enough, the word forgiveness, as Christ used it, did not mean pardon, as it has come to mean. That word forgiveness means to be vindicated, to be found not guilty. Now, how do you do that? That's the kind of forgiveness he said, Father, forgive them. They don't know what they're doing. Find them innocent. They don't know what they're doing. When you recognize that it's purely robotic, they don't know what they're doing, suddenly you realize they're innocent. Now, that doesn't mean they didn't do what they did. It doesn't mean it didn't have the impact that it did. But they didn't know what they were doing, even if it appeared they did. Even if it seemed conscious and malicious. It's coming from a depth of ignorance. To see that, you begin to recognize, if somebody doesn't know what they're doing, are they truly guilty? Or can you find them innocent? And in that, you find your own innocence. Because we've all done things to others as well. We've all done things that we want to be forgiven for. But it's the same mechanism in both. As you awaken, you begin to see that, and you begin to forgive yourself. Or all the things you did, because they were all out of ignorance. They were all out of an ignorance as to who you really are. And then you begin to discover the most miraculous thing, which was the beginning of my spiritual journey at 19 years old when this was shown to me. Original innocence. That innocence that has been there from the beginning. Father, find them innocent. They don't know what they're doing. Yes, it's all clouded by the muck, by conditioning, by robotic tendencies, by all the programming, enculturation, all sorts of things. Fear, ignorance, and greed. But at the heart of it is that innocent, pure you that has never really been touched by all of that. Discover that in you, you will see it in others, and you will arrive at the wise, intelligent state of forgiveness. There'll be nothing to forgive. There'll be no one to forgive. And you will find that you're also, in addition to just loving and compassion and really wise, because you see the nature of things, you'll be aware of that original innocence that's in everyone. So, hopefully, that's me saying something about forgiveness and its power. So I hope that is satisfactory too for you, happy girl. Hey, Rosario in Madrid. There's Diane in the UK. I watch every week now. I found you. Wonderful teachings and questions. Oh, thank you, Diane. These are ancient teachings. This is a thread that runs Advaita Vedanta, which runs through. It's a thread that runs through all. It appears in all spiritual traditions, actually. The mystic Christians, to some degree, the Kabbalah, the Sufi. It is the mystery of oneness, and specifically this process of satsang and inquiry is Advaita Vedanta. So it's very old. I didn't make this stuff up. So I'm so glad to have you here. Robbie in Romania. There's David and Elaine and my buddies in Southeast England. My God, the questions are piling up already. What a beautiful liberating day. Ending with GP and the Sangha. Hello, Awakened Diane FJ. Hello, Crispin. There's quite a hype about karma. Isn't that just cause and effect? Or is that just the mind's belief system? Let's see. Well, karma is a big step forward beyond the Western idea of just crime and punishment. Externally opposed rules and laws that are enforced by the culture or by God. And, you really have no say in these, right? These laws are imposed on you, and you got to follow them. And if you don't, you deserve the consequences. And if you do, pats on the back. That's kind of the Western view of this kind of moral law. You might say. Karma is far more mature than that, in that it recognizes simply that there's no overarching moral law, nor any enforcer of that law. You don't need one. There is the natural consequences of my actions. It's just the way it is, right? If I do something, there will be a consequence to that. Right? The consequence, if I'm wise, the consequence will tell me whether the act was valuable or not, whether it made any sense, whether it was moral. Now, oftentimes I cannot see the effect of my actions, right? And especially if I get a little bit caught up in the illusion, caught up in the ignorance, I can think that my actions are good. Let's talk. The executive board, the board of directors of a corporation that decides they're going to move their factory to China because it'll be more profitable, and in the process put literally thousands of people out of work and devastate a community. Now, to their point of view, this is the right thing to make, right? And so now they're going to get, Oh, sorry, my screen just went blank for a second. Now that's the right decision. They get the reward from that decision, which is there's more money, less expense, their stock price goes up because that's their criteria, right? But the other consequence is still there. The lives that have been devastated, the communities, and not just the people in the business, but the town, the other businesses that support them. I mean, it's a huge deal when something like that happens. So we can be very myopic, right, and very selfish in the reward. Well, I got plenty out of it. And this is, what's supposed to happen, and this is what's happened. So pat me on the back. I did a great job. And the other consequences remain unseen, right? Yet they will be there, and they will come back, right? This is the nature of it. But the nature of karma, and it is basically cause and effect, but not linear, right? It's not this, then this, then this, then this, because there's so many variables that converge at any given moment to make any moment happen. The permutations are inconceivable. There's just no way anybody could take control over that. And that's the true insight into karma, is that there's no way out, right? Good or bad, you're always creating karma. That energy of cause and effect goes on and on and on and on. So in many traditions then, it becomes about making good karma, or accumulating merits, as they would say. So you would be born in better and better and better lifetimes and have eventually maybe a diva or something like that. And some believe that at some point you're born as a Buddha, that this is how you earn your enlightenment. But enlightenment is the end of karma. So karma can't be the key to the end of karma. It will just create more of the same. Somehow there's got to be a way out of the Shiva's wheel of cause and effect, of birth and death, of good and evil. This is the heart and soul of the revelation of Buddha. It's the heart and soul of Advaita Vedanta, where Buddha saw that cause and effect was an illusion. It was a projection of the mind. That this causing this was completely the mind's interpretation of a sequence of events that in fact had no connection to each other whatsoever. They had no more connection to each other than the film going through a projector, right? What you see on the screen, right, is on the screen simply because this frame, then this frame, then this frame, and this frame. In our minds, we make a connection of it and turn it into a story. The fact of the matter is, this moment is being generated real time in this moment and has absolutely no connection to the past. The consistency of the past, the consistency that we see, is simply a result of the intelligence and the nature of that which is doing the projecting, which is the self. And so it's always consistent with the self. And therefore, and some things change very, very quickly, right? I mean, your body is literally killing off and recreating millions of cells every second, right? How fast atoms are whizzing around. Change is going on constantly, enormous speed. And at this level of consciousness, we perceive it relatively slowly, right? One day you look in the mirror and you go, wait a minute, what's that? You've put on weight, or your hair is gray, or white in my case. And where did that come from? It surprises you, right? Simply because of expectation. I'm kind of digressing a bit. So the essence of karma is long-term cause and effect. It shows that everything, the cause and effect, there's just no way out of it. Right? No matter what you do, there will be an effect. But the nature of nirvana, that is the ultimate achievement, the ultimate awakening, is in stepping into the timeless, out of cause and effect. Because that which absolutely is the truth was not caused. It didn't have a beginning. Nothing could cause the truth. It's self-existent, self-luminous, self-validating. And so it's outside of time. So I was saying in the beginning of this, you are that truth. What you're discovering is your timeless truth, which has never been touched by karma, never been touched by this story that appears as cause and effect. Never. The original innocence, which has never been touched by any of what appears on the screen of consciousness. What appears on the screen is not you. It's not your life any more than the screen, a picture on the movie or a video of you like this. It's no more you than that. You are the timeless witness that had no beginning and no end, that is simply watching this play unfold itself. And to the play itself, right, there's all sorts of characters and all sorts of things going on. But to the witnessing consciousness, you live in that timeless space. Who you come to believe yourself to be is simply a character in this movie. That character is subject to the cause and effect that's in the movie. The witness, the witnessing consciousness, is the timeless transcendent, which is not being touched by the movie at all. And that is the way out of karma. Thank you, Crispin. Hello, Jay. Good to see you. John in Ireland. Fiona. Hello, Fiona. Hi, all from Greece. As I practice this new way of understanding and awakening, I wonder, is there a moment when you start feeling a little less stupid and mortified for having lived life so upside down? Yes. The short answer is yes. Is there a time when you start feeling less stupid? The very fact that you do feel stupid is a good sign, right? You look at your whole life and go, oh my God, facepalm. What was I thinking, right? Well, you weren't. You were deluded. You were believing yourself to be this separate self. And what the residual that you're feeling is there's this sense of like, God, I missed out on so much. The fact is you didn't miss out on anything. And don't forget, you're eternal, right? You're not going to miss out on anything. It's not like there's this limited supply of wonderfulness and awesomeness. There's plenty. There's plenty to be had. And just have a good laugh about it. Yeah. That recognition of the ignorance that has blinded you and is blinding most of the world can go, oh my God, what? It's a good sign. It's a good sign. And yes, you'll as you are abiding more and more in this timeless space, that sense of the one who was stupid and feels stupid will fall away, because you never were the one who was being stupid. In the beginning, in the awakening, it feels like I'm awakening from the dream. But little by little, you realize that even the one awakening is still in the dream. The real you was never asleep, doesn't have to awake, was never bound and doesn't have to be liberated, never did anything stupid. That these were all the pictures in the screen, this was all the dream, and the dream is coming to an end. And with it, all the imagined stupidity and the stupid one. The stupid one never really existed. It was never who you really were. So, yes, it'll be just fine, Fiona. Truth Loops. Hello, beautiful soul. Hello to you. Namaste, dear G. Love from all from Poland. There's Eva Murkoff from sunny Sweden. Well, this time of year, the sun comes out and doesn't go away for a while, right? Again, sorry for the noise with the ice. I got my powder. I got amino acids and creatine and all sorts of good stuff in here. very good, but I have to keep it mixed or it all settles to the bottom. Can't touch this, MC Hammer. That's right. Hello, Mary John Sheehan. It struck me during the week that if a hydrogen bomb hit my kitchen, I would be untouched. Yes, you would. Your body would be vaporized, but you'd be just fine. We're not the body. You're not the body. You are the indetectable, invisible, animating principle of it. That which animates this body, which moves the hand and moves the lips and speaks, is not the body any more than the car drives itself. Well, they have self-driving cars now. Come here, car. But when you're driving the car, you're not the car. You're just driving the car. This is the big mistake. We become so intimate with the body that we think we are the body. That's the only mistake. You're not. You're not in the body. You're not of the body. You're not a product of matter. You're not an emergent property. You're not an artifact. You are the indivisible, non-localized consciousness that is animating the body. And that consciousness that is animating your body is the same consciousness animating this body. It appears to be different because the forms are different, but the essential consciousness that is animating them is identical. You're not in the body. Christ said it, destroy this temple, the body, and in 3 days I will raise it up. As if to say, look, I'm not in the body. You cannot destroy me. So he also said, where the tree bends where the wind blows, but you can't tell where that wind is coming from or where it's going to, and that this is what being born of the Spirit is like. The Spirit moves this body. If we were ignorant, we might think the trees are moving themselves. We might go looking for muscle fibers and things like that. And we even refer to the trees dancing and that sort of thing. But they're simply responding to the invisible motion of the wind around them. Well, the same is true of your body. The spirit that animates this body is in it, it's through it, it's around it, it's everywhere. It just happens to be animating this moment. Just like the wind, the same wind moves an entire forest of trees, the same consciousness moves every single body. Is manifesting itself in that body, is speaking through this body, is hearing through the body, is looking out through the eyes. It is the same consciousness everywhere. It's just this habit of identifying myself with the body, making myself a specific person, right? Oh, I am this body, therefore I'm GP and I'm this and I'm like that and I'm this, blah, 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 blah. And I forget that I'm not any of that, right? That's like thinking the tree is moving itself. You are the spirit that animates it. Nameless, formless, indivisible, irreducible. It cannot be detected or sensed. Right? Yet it is doing all of the detecting and the sensing. You. That is you. Not a form of you, not an ephemeral form of you. The spirit or soul of you is not like you, but kind of more amorphous, and you can stick your hand through you. Right? You don't have a body. You don't have a shape. You don't have a form. You are infinite. You are everywhere simultaneously. But not in terms of space. For you, there is no space. There is no time. There's nothing but here and now. Well, anyway, yes, you would remain untouched. The bomb can go off. You will remain untouched because you are not the body. This earth is going to end. This body is going to end. Maybe in an atomic explosion, but probably not. Probably something a little bit far more mundane, right? And where am I going to go? Absolutely nowhere. Because I never was anywhere in the first place. Thank you, John. Patricia. Hi, dear G, and all love and joyful heart from here. Please speak on the possibilities of living this life in happiness, despite all that shows up as imperfect or even heartbreaking. Well, first, we must understand the nature of happiness, and also accept deep in our hearts the reality that life is going to show up as it does. And if I am willing to simply allow life to show up as it does, not pursuing pleasure or avoiding pain, but allowing and enjoying both when they're there, and allowing them to go when they do, which they will, I am in happiness. That's happiness. Want what you have, don't want what you don't have. That's happiness. It's so simple. For the mind, happiness is conditional. It's got all sorts of dependencies and prerequisites and the like. If I've got, when I have this, and this, then I will be happy. Well, all of those conditions you find, they never run out, do they? Right? That list of prerequisites seems to be infinitely long. And as soon as a couple of them get checked off, more seem to just kind of keep collecting at the bottom. Because the mind is in a state of perpetual seeking, because the mind believes happiness to be contingent. It's in the next relationship, or the next pay raise, or the next event, or the next peak experience, or the next retreat, right? Or the next ayahuasca journey, right? Because the mind is in perpetual seeking. Why? Because it is insubstantial. It is not the self. Therefore, it has no inherent quality whatsoever. So it cannot be content. The ego cannot be content. The ego is, by definition, the activity of discontent. And what is the cause of discontent? The mistaken idea that right now is not okay. And then comparing right now to what the mind imagines okay to be. And what that imagining will be subject to whatever your particular cultural conditioning was. It's totally arbitrary. For some people it's my next $1 billion. For somebody else, it's graduating from one of the prestige schools. For somebody else, it's having a baby. Right? Whatever that happens to be is arbitrary and culturally imposed on you. You didn't even choose it. And the underlying assumption, of course, is that it's something out there you're going to get. And when you get it, then you will be happy. So the underlying assumption is, I am not happy. That contentment and happiness is not an inherent quality, but a conditional state, and I must spend my life in the pursuit of it. I mean, it's in the preamble to the Constitution of the United States, if you can believe that, the pursuit of happiness, right? Which, I mean, in the fiber of this country is the belief that happiness is material possessions and material or conformance to certain ideas, that it's something to be pursued. No sense of it being an inherent reality. The self, the reality, consciousness, in its wholeness, the real you, is already happy, is content, needs nothing, wants nothing. And so it is nothing but giving. It's nothing but love, because there's nothing for it to get. So it just radiates love. That's happiness. Just notice all the places where you assume happiness is not here. Notice, whenever you're feeling a sense of discontent, ask yourself, what's missing? What is it that I think is missing? And you'll find that the mind is taking right now and comparing it to some other state. A better time in the past, or an imagined better time in the future. What would right now be like if you didn't compare it to anything else ever? what would be wrong? If you don't compare it to anything, how is right now not perfect? Really, think about it. How can it, you say, when life shows up imperfect or heartbreaking, how can it be imperfect unless you compare it to what? What's perfect then? Right? Now you'll find all the cultural ideas that have been installed in you as to what perfect actually is. And of course, believing that is the source of the heartbreak. That's supposed to be perfect. I don't have it. My heart's broken. Right? And then there's just kind of letting life be as it is. Right? Just letting it come the way it comes. And sometimes it will disappoint you. Right? Sometimes you will get your heart broken. Everybody's had their heart broken. Right? That's why they invented the blues. Right? It is. But is there something wrong with that? Is that imperfect? Or is that simply the way life shows up? And the more you are absolutely okay with whatever happens, the less that heart can possibly break. That heart just expands and is so huge that there's absolutely nothing that it can't receive and adore. So that would be my answer to that, Patricia. Martin. Hello to you, sir. Is it true that trauma can exist in body parts or tissue of the body for years and cannot be healed till you practice some kind of body work, breath work, etc.? Thanks. Yes, for the most part, yes, that's actually true. Remember, a trauma is stuck energy. It's an energy that was there in order to defend you against a very real danger, right? At least the danger as perceived by the one experiencing it. Now remember, as a child, when you're 3 or 4 years old, that sense of what is dangerous is a lot different than what it is when you're an adult, because when you're a child, you are totally vulnerable and powerless. There's nothing you can do. So it is the most sensitive time for us. So when something threatens us, even our parents being angry feels life-threatening to the child. Right? Now, when your life is threatened, what does the body want to do? Fight or flight. It's going to prepare to either get away, and that feeling in the body of needing to get away is called fear. And that's the body getting ready, drawing blood out of all the higher functions into the muscles and stuff to flee for your life. If it can't flee, it goes to the next level of defense, which is fight. And that's where anger, rage comes from. That's the body getting ready to protect itself. There's nothing wrong with fear, and there's nothing wrong with anger, right? What happens when you can't do either of those? What happens? If you run or you fight, you win the fight, everything's okay, the energy's been used. You run away, the energy's been used. But what happens when you can't? And of course, with a child, you can't. You can't run and you can't fight, especially when the pain is coming from your caregivers. What happens to that energy? It's got to discharge somewhere. The child doesn't know how to discharge it. And so, it goes off into the body somewhere. It gets stored, right? And there's all sorts of different ways traumas develop. They affect our personality. They affect our self-image. They affect our conditioning, our sense of self. All of that is real. So yes, it's now there. Right? Talk therapy can't undo that. The studies have pretty much shown that the release of this traumatic energy requires some kind of physical involvement, or at least it's faster to do it that way. Right? There's got to be some ability to allow the system to discharge. That's why I use and teach EFT. But you can do it through inner reconciliation, which is creating the space of inner safety that allows this energy to discharge. But there will be some kind of a physical release from the body. It can be subtle or it can be quite dramatic. I've experienced both. But there will be some kind of a discharge that'll be quite noticeable. If you do it well, using like EFT and inner reconciliation, it can happen. It'll be a non-traumatic event when it happens. Right? Sometimes the release of the trauma can be as traumatic as the original event. We don't want that. The body is quite capable of discharging it intelligently without damaging without any collateral damage. But so the answer is yes. And I found that at the heart and soul of it is creating an inner environment that is safe, where you're no longer fighting with the body, you're not really fighting with this energy. You allow it to run its course, which can be uncomfortable. But if you create that space of inner safety, remember it was danger that created the trauma in the first place. So the ultimate solution is to create an inner space that is safe enough to contain it, that allows that discharge, that energy now to begin to discharge, because it's safe to do so. Right? The danger has finally passed. The war is over. So that's kind of my overview of it. Most people do it through some kind of body work or something. For me, it's a combination of this inner inquiry, and then I will use tapping as an aid for creating this inner environment of safety that allows for all the mechanisms that are keeping that traumatic energy in place to begin to dissolve, which then eventually allows it to discharge, and you feel the freedom of you can feel your body coming out of its defensive posture and entering back into its that state of self-expressiveness, because that's the real damage. The trauma shuts down, takes away energy from what should be our capacity for creative self-expression. So there's my answer to that, dear friend. Namaste from India, from Kuhulika. What a beautiful name. Kiran, hello Kiran. Namaste Ji and everyone from Alabama. Please keep India in your prayers. Very distressing news coming from extended family and friends back home. Just feeling horrified. Grateful for any advice. These are definitely trying times for all of us. And when it starts feeling hitting really close to home, it's well, prayer works. While I talk about non-dual inquiry and the like, a prayer from an honest heart that is simply reaching out without a preconceived notion as to how things should go, without trying to force anything, but simply praying in the way Christ prayed, "Thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven." Just this complete release of my will. Yes, I want everything and everyone to be okay. I want this illness to finally dissipate and us all to be free of it. I want all the horrible things going on in the world to stop. The greed, the avarice, the war profiteering. So many things to break our hearts. So much cruelty coming from the ignorant mind, the ignorant egoic mind. Let that deep desire for there to be genuine peace in the hearts of all men and women and children and animals to be the depth of your prayer. Right? I don't know how to make this come about, right? But you do. Whoever you are. Right? This higher intelligence, this higher power, right? Not my will, but thine be done. You know, we don't really have the wisdom to understand the depth, the intricacy with which all of this is happening. The caterpillar has no concept of a butterfly. It's entering into the cocoon and it just thinks, the world is falling apart, I'm dying. And to a certain extent, it is. It's dying as one life form and emerging as another. This is what's happening to humanity as a whole. This is the cocoon we are entering into. When the old ways simply don't work anymore, it falls apart. And the shift that's happening in our world today, this isn't just, the switch of a century or two. This isn't just kind of a cultural adjustment, right? Or a market correction. This is the end of a 13,000-year cycle. This is the end of an epoch. And in the midst of that, there's going to be enormous chaos, pestilence, misery, disease, wars and rumors of wars, as the entire structure of the egoic mind begins to come down and fall apart. So allow your prayer for the safety of your family to grow bigger, the safety of everyone around them, the safety of everyone in their province, in their state, in the whole of India, the whole of the region. Let our prayers not be just have my side win, but let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. Find the peace that is so full of faith that nothing can move it. And you'll lose the fear, you'll lose the worry, you'll lose the doubt. Even in the face of the most dire circumstances, there will be an inner smile, like the Buddha smile, right? All these things must come to pass, but they do not touch you, nor do they touch your loved ones. What appears on the surface is not the reality of what's happening underneath. Hold to that. Take that deep into your heart. Feel the spirit with which I'm delivering it, even more than the words. Something like this, I don't want to do a non-dual inquiry or go into any of that kind of stuff. Go into the heart. This is the place where our hearts need to learn to open like they've never opened before. This is what's being asked of humanity, and if we step up to it, we will emerge as a completely new species. A new species that will make the current version of humanity look then like the Neanderthal does to us. So I hope that's comforting to you, and Karen, and everybody else as well. In the face of circumstances where we seem like we are utterly powerless, is where you discover your power. When the ego has run out of moves, when there's nothing more it can do, and the world is approaching the place where there's nothing it can do. The cascading of events is happening in such a way that we simply are not going to be able to deal with it. And in that moment is when the ultimate sacrifice will happen. And humanity will emerge completely changed, completely transformed. But we have to be brought to the point where we let go. Just as the caterpillar does. They just have to let go and be into that cocoon. But what it has waiting for it, it can't even imagine. So, thank you, my dear friend. Robbie, is it really true that anyone can be happy without needing a particular reason for it? Like there's no need for earning the right and allowing to express and be happy and content I'm assuming you meant content and not contempt. Yeah, that's the only real happiness there is. Happiness that is conditional is not happiness, right? It's just a momentary emotional high. And what it is actually is just a momentary relief from suffering. It's relief, it's not happiness. We have to understand the nature of when I need a reason to be happy, I've made happiness conditional instead of an aspect of my being, which is what most people believe it is. Then I will be in the process of pursuing that which I believe is going to give me happiness. While I'm pursuing it, I will not be happy, right? When I get it, I will have that feeling of release and relief that I have wrongly named happiness. When one of my desires is fulfilled, what happens is the desire disappears. The desire goes. And then what you experience is the absence of desire. The absence of desire is happiness. It's your natural state of happiness, which desire obscures, covers up, makes you believe isn't there. And so now you experience the feeling of lack, right? Which is not pleasant. And then you pursue it. If you get your heart's desire, desire is quenched, the feeling of lack goes away, and voila! The happiness that's been there the whole time is felt. But because it has been associated with some kind of attainment, the next desire arises and covers it over. What if a desire arose and it didn't cover it over? It didn't matter because you realized that was not going to give you, that all it does is obscure happiness. It doesn't deliver anything. You know, you give a dog a bone, and the dog will chew on that bone, right? Chew on that bone. And eventually what happens is they're chewing on the bone. They actually cut themselves inside their mouth. And when they do, they taste the blood. Now, of course, they're carnivores, right? Meat is all they eat. And so the taste of blood is like exciting, right? Yum, I'm getting blood. And of course, they think it's coming from the bone. They're eating, they're tasting their own blood and getting excited. That's what that's like, right? You're tasting your own happiness, thinking it's coming from the thing that you've attained. And that is the great illusion. It's been yours the entire time. It gets obscured by desire. When a desire is fulfilled, you feel it momentarily until the next desire arises. And of course, if that desire never does get fulfilled, you just go on and on and on, seeking and struggling and trying. And if I can only get this, if I can only get this. And it gets so ingrained into us that happiness is conditional. It's this thing. It's not only possible to be happy without a particular reason, it is the only real happiness there is. Everything else is transient, temporary, coming and going. This is why they say that the cause of suffering is desire. It's not desire per se, because desires are just part of life, they're part of the body. It is when we attach our happiness and well-being to the fulfillment, the presence or absence of the fulfillment of a desire, that we begin to suffer. What is suffering? Discontent. That's all suffering is. It's simply the sense of not getting what I want, of the belief that I do not have what I need, that I am inherently lacking. I am the separate self. I am separate from my own happiness. Happiness, contentment must be discovered as an inherent quality, and then it is never ever lost. It is not subject to the vagaries of the mind. It does not come and go. It is not an up and down. And yes, it is possible. And if you're not feeling happiness, you have attached your happiness to some external condition. Bring it back home. You attached it. You can disattach it. It's just our ignorant belief and we've all been trained that way, right? Happiness is in the thing. No, it's not. It's in you. It's projected onto the thing. And you cannot project anything that you don't inherently have. You are the complete, whole, happy, content self. That is your truth. Hold to that. Abide there. It'll get rid, it will dispel all the rest. Thank you for that question, Robbie. Mindful Zero, hey Dale, good to see you. There's Marty in Vancouver, Washington, not far from me. Suzanne, is that my dear friend Suzanne? I can't tell from the picture. Somehow, that's Susanna. Somehow, I somehow constantly attract the same type of men. Not honest, cheating, choleric. Is it because I have a lesson to learn or the law of attraction? I don't like to say things like that. The law of attraction, I have a lesson to learn. It's like, well, damn, when have I learned enough lessons? I'm really done with lessons, okay? And if I got a lesson to learn, how about teaching me, how about nice? Let me go to a nice class with nice people around me, and I'll learn that way, right? Thank you, I've had enough lessons. It's neither of those. Yes, right. There's a wisdom that needs to be gained. We need to take a step back, right? And there's an energy, an energetic pattern that gets put in place in all of us. And the reason I say it's not a lesson to learn and it's not the law of attraction is because it's not you, right? It's a way your nervous system was trained to be, right? That if your father was like that, right? Not really honest, deceptive, maybe even cheated on your mother, volatile, whatever, you're going to have unwittingly, even though you're not the least bit aware of it, there will be an energy that's drawn to that simply because it's familiar. Now, notice that's not the law of attraction. Right? That's not a lesson you have to learn, right? It's not punitive, right? You're simply coming to understand the way in which the whole nervous system functions, the way in which these patterns get set up. Remember, you're born into a certain environment. Your nervous system adapts to that environment, right? And when you're young, of course, it's the whole of the environment, so it just kind of assumes this is reality. It learns how to be in that environment safely, so it resists that environment changing. Even wanting to get to a better environment, there's going to be a resistance because this is familiar. Better the devil you know than the devil you don't. And so it would rather stay in the unpleasant place because it knows it, and it knows it can stay safe there. It knows it can work this room, than allow that container to expand. The way in which this needs to be dealt with is what I call inner reconciliation. You need to create a safe enough environment that the nervous system itself begins to sense the safety and therefore naturally begins to expand into a different environment. Now notice, nothing I said there was punitive. Nothing is there about the law of attraction, which has just become so mythologized. Forget about all of that. It's not really important. Let's just pay attention to ourselves, right? Where am I most comfortable? You have a desire to have a relationship with a man who is honest, who's present, who adores you, who appreciates your femininity, your womanhood, right? Who is there for you, who is dependable, right? These are the qualities that are innate in all of us, right? And the very fact that you're aware of that and you're aware of these guys who are not that is an indication that the lesson's learned, right? The awakening has happened. You are now conscious of it. Now, reinforcing that consciousness helps the consciousness to expel from the nervous system its dependency on that old condition. But if you recognize that it's there, and it's not really a problem, it's not an enemy, this is how the nervous system adapted itself to keep you safe. That's all it is. It is the protective mechanism. If you recognize that it is the protective mechanism and that that's there, and simultaneously you have a desire for better, of course, more evolved, more intimate, more close, right? But you don't take sides. Don't say, I gotta get rid of this, because that makes an inner conflict. The inner conflict creates an environment that is not safe, and so the nervous system continues to resort to its strategy for dealing in an unsafe environment, which is what put this whole thing in place in the first place, right? What has to shift is that inward relationship to both of these. Okay, this is how my nervous system is working. This is how my defensive mechanism was programmed to work. And it's been doing a great job. It's always been perfect. It's not my enemy. Thank you for doing such a great job. Now, I really appreciate you. I've been mad at you. I've been wanting to get rid of you, but I appreciate you. Now, over here, I also have this desire, right? And this is real too. Now notice, I've just stepped into this place, I call it the peacemaker. You're not taking sides anymore. You recognize the nature of the nervous system has to keep you safe. It's never going to do anything that doesn't keep you safe. What we need it to do is to learn how to do it differently, to keep you safe and simultaneously allow you to have greater freedom. You can't force that. You have to create an inner environment of safety, and it will do it all by itself. That's why I call it inner reconciliation. And I've got literally hundreds of hours of video about inner reconciliation, how this whole process works, why it has been mistakenly called the law of attraction, because that projects all of this outward. There's this force out there that I have to deal with. There's no force out there. It's all here. It's all you. And it's all very natural, and it's all within you, and it all is immediately available to you, and it doesn't need to take a long time. Matter of fact, it doesn't take a long time. The moment your nervous system detects the environment is safe, it checks it out. Yes, it's safe. Immediately it adapts to it. That's its nature. It is the most adaptive thing that has ever existed. It can adapt to anything, as it did, to keep you safe. You only need to worry about the environment. So this is a dropping out of inner conflict and into the deepest kind of unconditional self-love. So I'm going to leave it at that, Suzanne. That is my brief overview of inner reconciliation and how it works. So thank you. Yeah, you will get through this. So don't blame. It's not a lesson in the sense of it's punitive. It's just we all have to come to learn how this whole thing actually does work, and we want to. Then you harmonize with the way things are, which is called the Tao, right? And at that point, it's not a lesson. You're learning how to be for real. And it's not something that you attract. It's what you are. Nazrin, so good to see you. Hey G, had an experience of enormous pain, feeling my body losing its function. My understanding was my nervous system was reacting to past trauma, but then I heard Muji say, some people go through this experience when their ego is dissolving. Any thoughts? Well, the reaction to past, it could be either, but remember, the traumas created the ego. So a past trauma that is beginning to stir, or maybe dissolve, or maybe just kind of reacting, that is the ego. That's all there is to the ego. The ego is created by the trauma. Okay? So it's actually the same. So just stay present with all of those feelings, and the specific will reveal itself. Right? You can experience that kind of thing. There's a reaction in the system when the ego is losing its grip. Right? when it is no longer is no longer able to hold the same kind of control over all your thoughts, which is of course the object of self-inquiry. That's why we're here, to do that, to free ourselves from the illusion of the egoic mind. But the egoic mind and the traumatic material are all intertwined, because the traumas are just the conditioning that's taken place, the unhealed, undischarged energy, and sitting on top of that is the ego. So this is a system, and you could call all of it the egoic mind, but it's the combination of the programming, the traumatic material, the conditioning, because the ego is nothing but conditioned thought. It's not a thing. It is the conditioning. When thought gets conditioned into a particular pattern, it's called the ego. When it's conditioned into certain kinds of restrictive behaviors, it's called the trauma. It's all the same essence, right? The ego isn't a thing. It's not an entity that's going to dissolve. That's our concept of it. It is a word for conditioned thinking. And that conditioned thinking has been created by the same trauma that creates all of the energetic patterns. And the essence of that trauma is the sense, I am a separate self. And then that I identifies with the body, and voila, you have the ego. That's kind of the brief way around it. But for you, your understanding is accurate. Now, what is actually happening in this moment? Just be with that feeling and just go, okay, show me, what is it I need to do to participate in this? But keep doing the inquiry in that whatever this is, it is not my true self. My true self is forever free of it, forever innocent of this. It was never conditioned. It was never traumatized. It was never the ego. It has always been that which is witnessing all of this. I am not what's being witnessed. And that puts me in the position of the most compassionate, loving presence to allow this conditioning to release. And then the entire system begins to harmonize and begins to represent more and more the real you, the unconditioned, innocent you, and the less and less it represents the ego. Thank you, Nazareth. So good to see you. Annette Rockstar, can you talk about the benefits of living in an ashram? Have you done that? Would you recommend someone to spend a certain amount of time per year to live there? Well, as a general rule, I leave all of that up to people. I make no such recommendations. It is not necessary, no. It can have a beautiful effect. I've gone on Buddhist shishins, which are long meditations. I've done Vipassana. I spent a month with Muji in India. It wasn't an ashram kind of environment. You know, the Buddhist and the Vipassana, which is a form of Buddhism, you know, very regimented and that sort of thing. A dear friend of mine spent a year in a nunnery in Nepal, and so it's the kind of thing you might want to do if you're drawn to it. You might want to try it out. For me, there is no such thing as something that has to become a regular practice, other than self-inquiry, right? Remember, the whole point is to come to know yourself as you actually are. And you can only do that by being with yourself. Right? A lot of times in ashrams, monasteries, those kinds of things, they're so regimented and so regulated because it's a particular practice that they're doing that it's devoted to. And so they'll have also different kinds of rules for you to follow. And of course, you know, it's necessary. We can't just be, we can't just be doing whatever we're darn well pleased there. But oftentimes they're going to be expecting you to participate in that particular form. Now, if that particular form is what appeals to you, well, then by all means do it. But there aren't such things in the non-dual tradition. It is more of a direct relationship between the student and the teacher. As a matter of fact, there's been plenty of non-dual teachers who they didn't sit somewhere in an ashram and people came to them, because the people they served were the householders. They wandered around from place to place and gave their talks and gave satsang, because the householders couldn't leave and go, they couldn't leave their responsibilities and go sit in an ashram for a month or a year. Not everybody can do that. So I don't say no, don't do it. It's not up for me to decide what's best for you to do. Perhaps if we talked one-on-one, I might be able to help guide you a little bit more towards that. But just in general, it isn't a necessity, right? And if somebody tells you that it is a necessity, all that's doing is saying that my awakening to my true nature is dependent on time and practice and something I have to do. It isn't. Who you are, the truth of your being, is the truth of your being right now. It does not require anything to wake up to it. This is also a difference between Theravada Buddhism and Mahayana Buddhism. Between Zen, the Sudden School, and more Tibetan, the Progressive School. It doesn't require anything. Right? Right now. Now is the accepted time. Right this second. The truth of you is the truth now. There's no need to postpone it. And to actually be with that, I don't need to do anything, go anywhere, try anything. I don't need to go to the forest, the mountains, the monastery, and ashram. I don't need it. Right? If I'm drawn to that and I do it, fine. There are no contingencies at all. There are no dependencies at all. Because the truth of you is the truth now. We are breaking through the illusion. We are not making you the self. We're revealing that you've always been the self. And that does not require time. Matter of fact, it's an event that takes place outside of time. So I don't recommend people spending there a certain amount of time per year. You may, at certain times, be drawn, but don't make anything, turn anything into a ritual. In a moment, I think I'm going to go here for 2 weeks, a month, something like that, or even 2 days, right? Fine. Don't think it's got to be then come something regular. It doesn't. It doesn't. Everything one step at a time. What you need to awaken is here, right now, right this moment. You don't need any more. You don't need any preparation, right? You don't need anything, any development. That's just the mind trying to postpone what in fact is right now. You are already that. The truth of you can't become the truth of you. If it's the truth of you, it's the truth now. It's been the truth in the past. It will be the truth in the future. So how about now? So, thank you, Annette. Emiliano, hey, can you talk about how to deal with procrastination? Procrastination is a feeling. Put it in as a feeling. For whatever reason, whatever it is you're supposed to be doing, there's an inner conflict. One side says, I should be doing this. Another side says, no, we shouldn't. I don't want to do that. Look at it in those terms. Right? When people ask about procrastination, what they're really saying, how do I get rid of it? Because I really want to do this. Right? Well, as long as you're fighting with it, you're feeding it. It's going to win. Because what you're really struggling with is an inner conflict. Right? And as long as there's an inner conflict, all of your efforts are going to have limitations on it. Right? It's going to be 1 foot on the gas, 1 foot on the brake. So don't see it as procrastination is the problem. It's the symptom. The problem is an inner conflict. There's a part of you that does not want to change. It doesn't want to do that. Or it may even think it's dangerous to do that thing. Right? My emphasis is always pay attention to you. Make knowing yourself more important than what it is you're trying to do that you're having a hard time doing. Make you, knowing you, inner peace, inner reconciliation, inner calm, make that the priority. Now attention will be focused here. All right, well, what's actually happening? What's happening here? What's really happening? Why is it there's this thing it'd be really good for me to do, and yet there's a resistance to it? Now I could fight this resistance, but so far that's failed, so it's a waste of time. There's no sense fighting it. It always wins. And even if I do manage to eke something out, it's a great effort. I don't want to live like that. All right, what's this resistance all about? Okay, Mr. Resistance, I'm not going to fight you anymore. You're here for a reason. I love you. Tell me what it is you're trying to protect me from. And just notice I just step into the place of the peacemaker, the place of the reconciler, right? There's nothing in you that's an enemy. The only thing that's in you is trying to protect you. Either trying to protect you or to set you free. That's the only energy there is inside of you. We've just all learned to, I like this, I don't like this, to reject major parts of ourselves. And as a result, we suffer. It's really very simple, right? So reconcile with it. Be present with it. And make knowing yourself and really understanding the nature of life and what's going on inside of you the most important thing it is, because it is. Make it more important than anything you want to accomplish. Because whatever you're trying to accomplish, it's only so you can feel a certain way. And the only way you're really going to feel that way is when there is inner peace. And inner peace comes from inner reconciliation. When there's no conflict inwardly anymore. When everything, every aspect of your being is totally acceptable. Even when it's acting up. Right? Even when it's, overzealous. Right? It's okay. It's just you. Right? I want you all to want to know yourself more than anything else. That will open the door to everything else. Because imagine, with no inner conflict, there's just nothing but inner peace. What would your life be like? Would you procrastinate? Would you worry? Would you grasp at something? Would you be afraid of anything? No. Seek ye first the kingdom of heaven, harmony, the Tao. The rest will be added unto you. Thank you, Emiliano. Faith. I am confused between we don't need anything to be happy or free and the universe wants to create and expand. You don't need anything to be happy and free because it is your nature. And here's where it becomes kind of weird. It is also your nature to expand and to grow. Right? There's the unchanging center of you. That which is the source of everything. Right? It needs nothing because it's infinite. What does the infinite need? What's outside of infinite? Right? It's eternal. What is it afraid of? What's outside of eternity? Of the totality. And you are that totality. But the nature of the totality is it's not a stone. It's not a chunk of wood. Its nature is to express itself in the perpetual unfoldment, which is why what do you see around you? Constant transformation, right? The light that's shining on me right now, it's not like there's a light. I turn it on once and the light just sits there, right? It's a constant flow, isn't it? You don't see it, but it's a constant flow going so fast, 186,000 miles a second, right? Really fast. And yet it looks like one continuous light. Right? This is the nature of all of our experience. And the great non-dual secret is that the unmoving essence that needs nothing is simultaneously the infinite universe that is constantly unfolding and expanding. The mind cannot grasp this because the mind needs two. It turns that self that needs nothing and the universe that it's expanded into two different things. They are not. They are two aspects of the one transcendent essence, which is being itself. The being of everything is changeless. It'd have to be, otherwise it wouldn't be. The truth cannot become false, and false can't become true. So the very same thing that is completely unmoving, changeless, including all things, is also the potential for perpetual unfoldment that is at the inexhaustible source of all form. Form and emptiness are one. The essential and the manifestation are one. Listen to a piece of music by Mozart. Hundreds of pieces of music by Mozart. They're all Mozart, right? And yet none of them are Mozart. This is it. Music in the song. There are no limits onto the potential of music. It doesn't matter how much music we produce, there will always be an infinite more available. And yet the essence of music itself remains absolutely unchanging. And without the song, it would still exist. It's because it's pure potential. So the pure potential is the unmanifest state. The form is the manifest state of the same being. This is the non-dual mystery. They are not two. And that's the only way you can put it. They are not two. So you are both, the universal and the particular. You are God and faith. You are the infinite truth and the individual being simultaneously. And there is no contradiction there. The contradiction only exists in the mind because it can't see anything but two. And this is not two. I am that. Period. It is all myself. All this has proceeded from me. As it says in the Upanishads, all this, all creation is myself, for it is all proceeded from me. This me is the one truth, the one self. But it manifests itself as infinitely unfolding reality, infinite unfolding experience. Thank you, Faith. Facebook user, feeling something is missing is only an illusion. Yes, it's just a feeling. That's it. It's just a feeling. There isn't anything missing, right? But if the mind says, "Oh, something's missing," it'll look forever for this thing that's missing. Oh, this is it, and it'll get, no, that's not, and keep going, because it just can't accept the truth that nothing's missing. Well, if nothing's missing, where is it? This is where the inquiry has to dismantle all of that. Merck. I usually get interested and persuaded by the endless beliefs and questions, even though they are clearly focused on lack. Been like that for quite a while now. Well, you used to be like that. You're not anymore. Stories are so intriguing. How can we keep from getting stuck in the theory by losing interest? At some point you realize, my God, it's the same story. It's yet another sitcom. The last one was boring. This one's going to be boring. There's no pot of gold at the end of this rainbow. In fact, there's no rainbow. It's simply a matter of inquiring into it and recognizing what is happening. You know, the best salesman can't sell you if you don't buy. It's got to hook into something to get your attention, right? It's got to. And that's why instead of thinking, how do I just get rid of all that, go, okay, well, again, make this about you. Oh, what's getting hooked? What am I identifying with that it's getting hooked? That this promise still seems, that shiny object still seems to have some value, right? Buying the stairway to heaven, right? And Merck says, I appreciate the irony of this question. LOL. to even ask, as it is just further perpetuation of that attention. Or maybe being stuck in theory is just another thought and not true. You are not stuck in the theory. I know you well enough now that you are working this out experientially. This isn't just in your head. You're really trying to work through this, and I appreciate that. Right? It's well, I'll spend some time exploring this with you. Pay attention to what it is that's getting hooked. That's where the gold is. It isn't about, oh, I'm getting intrigued. I'm getting seduced by it. Who? No, that's not you, right? It's something you've identified with that still has an interest, that still thinks there's something to get. So there's still an energy there that's outward focused and still trying to get something, right? Take a step back, take a nice breath. Okay. What's getting hooked? Where am I still identified with someone who is lacking, who needs something, who wants something? That's where the gold is, right? To whatever it is for which that shiny object holds some attraction. Start paying attention to that. And no, you're not stuck in a theory. You're not. You are genuinely looking for the experiential truth, right? You understand this stuff well enough at the intellectual level. You want it to go deeper. You know it needs to. This is how it happens, right? When you notice you keep getting distracted over here, right? This is how it becomes experiential. You go, okay, what's going on? What's actually happening here? And notice that there's the energy of the separate self, the energy of the person, is by nature grasping, looking for something outside itself, because the sense of a separate self doesn't have satisfaction. It doesn't have what it needs. It needs to look outside itself. But that isn't you. You are what is watching that. Now let the eye come out of that back into the witness that is watching it. So you use this as an opportunity to deepen your experiential understanding. Thank you, Merck. Angelo from Germany. I love Satsang. Thank you, G, for your gentle wisdom. Oh, you're so welcome, Anja. I love Satsang, too. Izziness. Greetings from the hills of Florida. Thank you, GP. Thank you, Izzy. Earth. Whoops. Oh, darn. Oh, darn. Everything jumped ahead. There he is. Earth. Are we living in a virtual reality? Yeah, but not in the way people think. It's not the Matrix. We're not in a petri dish somewhere, some advanced civilization. Virtual reality is a good metaphor for what's happening. We live in our beliefs. We live in our perceptions. It's that simple. Our beliefs determine our perceptions. They determine where our attention goes, and it interprets all of our experience. So something happens. An event happens out here. What it means to me is completely my subjective perception of it. It's not the reality of it. Right. So this, our modern day of the Matrix and 5D and virtual reality, those are modern metaphors for something that has been understood by sages for thousands and thousands of years. That we, as Muji put it, there's one Earth, there's 8 billion worlds. Everybody lives in their own perception, thinking it's the perception. Oh, this is what it is. And they say, but there's this ultimate reality that maybe we're going to get to someday. We argue it over it. People spend billions of dollars trying to influence you to their perceptions. This is what advertising and marketing and politics is all about. So you just have to recognize that what you think things are, they're not. And let that open yourself up to the deeper question, well then, how do I know what's true? Well, start with the one thing you know for sure is true. If you're living in a virtual reality, if it's the Matrix, right? Something real is here. Maybe all of this is an illusion or a hallucination, right? But there's got to be something here that's having that illusion. The illusion can't have itself, right? There's got to be someone here. I am real. I don't know what I am. I have all sorts of perceptions about myself. I don't know what's real out here and what isn't. That is objective and what isn't. But I know this, I am. That's where it starts. That is the reference point for all inquiry. I am. That is an indisputable fact. I may not know what I am. I may not know what's true about my experience. But that I know. That's not a virtual reality. That is reality. Start there. Thank you, Earth. Roberta says, I feel contraction versus expansion, going backwards instead of going forwards, becoming smaller instead of bigger. Right? It's just what it feels like. It's not true. It's not true. It's just what it feels like. Right? Because somewhere in your nervous system is this idea of what you're supposed to be. And it's constantly comparing it. And it's so subtle, you're not even aware of it. And so it's constantly comparing this moment to that. And going, I'm not getting there, going backwards. You're not going backwards. You're headed towards your destiny, which is not the destiny that has gotten stuck in your nervous system somewhere. So don't believe it. Just because it feels that way, it doesn't make it true. It's not. You are not contracting. Expansion is the nature of the universe. The universe is expanding, isn't it? This is understood, right? That includes you. So it is happening. You are going forward. You are becoming bigger. You can't help it. You can only believe that you're not. That's where you have to start becoming defiant towards these ideas. They've controlled you for too long. Juliana, does the spine have a special place function in spirituality on the way to enlightenment? Not in this path, no. I do teach classes about the chakras. And in the traditional Kundalini model, which has become distorted in the West, by the way, that now that the Kundalini is this energy that starts in the first chakra and goes up the spine. That's not what the model originally was. It simply shows this line of ascension with two snakes coiled around it, right? It's represented in the body, but its real meaning is the transcending of your animal or instinctual nature through the heart, transformed through the heart space into the higher aspects which eventually transcend all of your instinctual nature and merge with union in the oneness. This is what it represents. It isn't a physical energy going up the spine. Right? To some, you'll talk to some people who teach it and they'll say it is, and it's fine, I'm not here to argue. In this path, it's metaphorical. It is not. The spine isn't the key to your enlightenment. The spine is simply just another aspect of consciousness that's appeared, as is the body. You're not the body, you're not the spine, you're not the spleen, you're not the kidneys, you're not your toes or your toenails. None of this is the reality of you. So none of this is a factor. Thinking that it is takes consciousness and makes it dependent upon material or even spiritual conditions. It takes the infinite, unlimited consciousness and makes it conditional. And that's a belief. It's not true. You can't take the infinite and make it contingent on anything else. And you are that infinite self. This is the realization. It's what you are. It's not what you have to become. And so how that appears, represented in the chakras as the transcending of the instinctual into rebirth or resurrection into the spiritual, is simply a metaphor for awakening. It isn't an actual process that takes place. And the awakening culminates in the realization that you've never been asleep, that even the awakening itself was in the dream, and that you have never ever been that. That all of this is the self. All of experience, what appears as the world, is not. It is all within you. It appears as if it is outside of you. This appearance is the illusion of there being me and then there being a world, as if we were two different things. It's not true. It is no more true than the sun is going around the earth. It appears that way, but that's not what it is. It appears to the ignorant mind that I am in this body and that there's a world out there. It's not true. It is all within consciousness. And the sense of the body is simply the sense of a point of perception in an infinite possibility of points of perception. And you are all of those. The entire universe is you. It is all yourself. Ponder this. Liza, hello. Hola to you. Yanis, blessings to all. Greek Easter today. Well, happy Easter then. Happy Resurrection Day. Sandra, hi from Sweden. Lisa, I'm a timeless witness. Yes, you are. For those of you who don't know Lisa, she is my business partner and my on-air producer for my radio show. So thanks to her, a lot of this stuff actually happens. Ha 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 from the Awakened IFJ. Hish Sandra, whatever that means. Speaking Swedish. Brilliant answer, thank you, says John. You're welcome. Fiona, thanks so much, GP. Much appreciated. Wonderful. Jay says, the problem with self-driving cars is sometimes it doesn't know how to stop when it needs. It's when the driver is needed. Same as when we leave everything to the mind. Very good, yes. Don't let the mind drive by itself. Oh, what a nice cliff. Mary Sykes says, so then the saying is true, there is only one power and one presence, living as the universe and as me, God, the good omnipotent. Yeah, that's kind of a new thought thing. It could have come out of A Course in Miracles. Just make sure you recognize that God is the self, is myself. It is not appearing as, I am not something appearing in the universe. That's not your experience. Your experience is that you know you. You are the sense of existence that you know. So everything you experience is contingent upon your existence. Right? You are not the result of anything else. Right? God is another name for the self. In the West, unfortunately, God has been twisted into being into this relationship. God, creator, creation, separate. And even in the New Thought churches, that idea is still infects it a little bit. They've come a long way in recognizing that unity. But man, that it still is about being the manifestation, right? The sense of two-ness has to dissolve. God is all there is. It isn't God and creation. It isn't living as the universe. It is the universe. The manifest and the unmanifest are one. This is the threshold by which all human religions and philosophies and ideas fall away, and you simply become. Right? It is not two becoming one is all, the two disappears, and the one that's all has ever been. When the river hits the ocean, nobody looks at the ocean and says, oh look, there's the Mississippi. It's gone. There is only the ocean. And in the ocean of bliss, the waves themselves are bliss. So that's my little caveat on that. Marguerite, hello GP, lots of love from France. Love to you. Facebook user, hi from Denise. Hi Denise, when I spoke with you, I was a 1 with pain. Now I'm over a 10 and struggling. Why? Oh, my dear friend Denise. Let it come. Let it come. The mind will be seeking for the cause of something for which there is no cause. Right? Well, if I just find out the cause, I can get rid of it. Right? I know the pain is there, and I know what it's like, but I also know you. Right? Right. And we can get together again, and we can do some more, do some more on it. Right? Okay, if you lose your faith, lose it. Right? I don't want faith. I want understanding. Right? We'll lose anything that isn't true. Right? This doesn't require your faith. It requires your understanding. Right? You only want to know what's true. You don't want to just believe in something. You want to know what's true. If I'm not telling you the truth, don't believe me. Right? Nothing anyone says should be taken on face value. I don't care who they are. Right? Right? Do not believe anything any teacher says. Take it for yourself. Make them prove to you that they are trustworthy, right? Including me. Right? So, stuff is going to continue to come up. Folks, we have no idea how much energy and karma and stuff in the past is accumulating, is releasing in this lifetime. George Harrison got really sick. George Harrison was a very devoted Hare Krishna, right? Not the kind that cuts, shaves your head and shows up at airports, right? And he said that he felt he was given a choice, that he could either that he could work his karma out a little at a time over multiple lifetimes, or he could just have it all at once. And he says, give it to me all at once. And he went through a lot of physical suffering. His house was broken into. All sorts of things happened. Eric Clapton ran off with his wife. And he said, this is what I asked for. I let this be discharged in the shortest possible time. Just really a courageous thing to do. But he's quite a remarkable human being. Just surrender, 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 surrender. Not my will, but thine be done. Right? Believe me, love, truth knows exactly how much you can take and will not push you one step beyond it. It is infinitely loving. But we want relief and release from all of this. Right? And there's no price too great to pay for it. My dear friend, I love you so much. Lisa, it's safe to discharge. Yes, it has to be safe to discharge. Contempt. Kiran, same to you, buddy. Thanks so much, GP. Your words brought tears to my eyes. Oh, so good, so good, so good. Hello, Heather. Amazing explanation. I'm not sure which one of the thing, but we can have GP's explanations and expression is so on point. Well, thank you. Let's see. Kakwenda. Hi, GP. Greetings from Kampala, Uganda. Is there such a thing as a fortune creating home or misfortune creating home depending on orientation? A fortune creating home or a misfortune creating home? Fortune and misfortune are simply ideas in the mind. Right? That's all they are. There's no such thing as a fortune or a misfortune. As Shakespeare put it, and it's even in the Ribhu Gita, there's nothing either good or bad, but thinking makes it so. If I believe myself to be in bondage, I'm in bondage. If I believe myself to be free, I am free. It's all what you believe. Your believing it believes it into existence. So there's no such thing as an objective fact of fortune or misfortune, of luck, good luck or bad luck, of right and wrong, of a problem or no problem. Those are all projections of the mind. Life has no problems. Life has no misfortune. Life doesn't really have any desire. It is just moving by its nature. It is all our projections of the mind that say, I don't like, this is unfortunate, which is to say this shouldn't be happening. Well, why? Why shouldn't it be happening? The fact is it is happening. Okay, then this is what's supposed to be happening. I harmonize with it. When you do that, there's no inner conflict anymore. You become happy. It's just, oh, this is the way life's happening, right? Yeah, I have some preferences. I wish it was going that way. It's not. Okay. There's no clutching. There's no tension. There's no fortune or misfortune, right? It's all you. It's all you. Accept the fact that you are already that perfect, pristine, innocent, infinite being for which there is neither fortune nor misfortune. Everything arises from you. Be that. Abide there. And you'll find that the rest of this are just permutations of the mind and completely unimportant. And then you will find yourself in this state of just contentment. Everything is quite all right. Or as Krishnamurti said, I don't mind what happens. Ravi says, thank you, GP. That analogy of the dog chewing the bone, tasting its own blood nails it. Good. Facebook user, talks are always so inspiring and full of wisdom. I do appreciate your generosity. You're very welcome. Lisa, do not confuse relief for happiness. Yeah. Hello, Darlene. Nazarene, thank you. Very clear answer. I was able to sit with the pain and reconcile with it. The pain vanished. It was like it was never there. Thank you. Thank you for telling me. Oftentimes that people have the experience and I never hear about it. Yes, that's what it is, because it was never really there in the first place. Right? The pain was our conflict. Nothing more. Facebook user, do we pick up thoughts and feelings of other people that we think of as our own? Yes. You want to know the truth? You ready for the truth? None of them are yours. You have wrongly identified what is in fact simply the flow of life. And you've said, that one's mine, that one's mine. Because of conditioning, it's kind of plucked out of this sea of thoughts that is all around us all the time. It plucks them out, identified with those. Those got brought into the inner circle, which brought their friends with them, right? And so you get kind of this cycle of things which we have wrongly said, oh, those are my thoughts. Those are not my thoughts. It's not true. They're not your thoughts. None of them are. No thought belongs to you. No thought is true. If you understand that, you'll begin to feel so powerful over every thought. You won't feel stuck with any thought, nor will you suffer from the thoughts of others, which I see a lot of, people who identify themselves as light workers and empaths and that sort of thing. Oh, how do I protect myself from other people's thoughts? Well, it's only your belief that you have to protect them that causes you that misery. A thought can't touch you. Only your own beliefs can affect you. Nothing can touch you except your own beliefs. If you believe the thought somebody else's thoughts can affect you, you will be affected, not by the other thoughts, but by your belief that they can affect you. It's all you. The power is all yours. So no thought belongs to anybody. But everybody takes possession of these thoughts. We even really, oh, I really like that thought. Oh, I don't like that thought. Get rid of that thought. Ooh, I like this thought. Give me more, give me more, give me more. You are not your thinking. Thinking is simply a function of life. It's part of the deal, right? All of this, emotion, sensation, all of these are just the flow of life. None of them belong to you. You are the witnessing consciousness that is beyond all thought, all emotion, and all sensation. Shortening my answers up here because time is getting short, and I want to cover as many things as I can. So this might be the lightning round, right? I think they call it like that. Good afternoon, G. How do watch out for ego trying or putting effort to get somewhere while formally sitting? Just notice it, right? Say, how do I watch out for the ego trying or try efforting to try to get someplace? Well, you notice that it is, right? Because you must have, because you're sharing with me how to watch out for it. It's not that it cannot, once you've seen it, right? And yes, you might fall back into it and you find yourself going, oh, I'm going to get enlightened any day now, right? You go, oh, wait a minute. No, I'm not sitting in my formal meditation to get anything. I'm not sitting here to become the Buddha. I am sitting here as the Buddha. I'm not sitting here to get enlightened. I am enlightenment itself sitting in meditation. I meditate as the awakened one, not as someone trying to become the awakened one. Make that your formal meditation. I am that, right? Sit as that. Walking meditate as that. Eat as that. Because that is the truth. You are not the one trying to get somewhere. That's the ego. And you'll notice that the impulse is there. You know, it's there. That seeking impulse, the seeking mind is there. It's been there. It's served its purpose now. It brought you to the cushion, right? You're on the cushion now. Who's on that cushion? Who's chanting? Who's asking the questions? Who's aware of the seeker? That which is aware of the seeking mind is not seeking. It's aware of the seeking. It's aware of the seeker. Right? It's aware of what the seeker is seeking, and it recognizes, I am what is being sought. Right? Meditate as the Buddha, as the self, as Shiva, whatever your particular meditative practice is, as the yogi, as the end state. Right? Because that's the truth. Right? It can't be something attained. Truth can't be a falsity that becomes true. Right? It must be true now. So you're simply removing from the consciousness that has been corrupted all ideas that you're anything other than that, right? which is the entire structure of the egoic mind. And now you're free. Matter of fact, you don't become free either. You recognize, I have always been free. Or as Christ put it, you'll know the truth will set you free. The only way truth can set you free is it reveals the truth that you've always been free. Thank you, Terilius. Faith. So we should create not out of neediness, out of love. But love is the opposite of refusing or not accepting. You don't have to create out of love. It's not an act of will. You are love. It is your being. It will then create. You will then create, but not as an act of will. Love isn't do creating. Love just loves. And love expresses itself in love, just like music expresses itself in music. The instance of love, right? When I express love towards someone, in any way, the love of a partner, the love of children, the love of friends, family, the love of your work, the love of music, the love of art, it's all love. These are all the manifestations of love. But no, it's not an act of will. It's just, this is what love does. It's what music does. It makes music, right? And it is that whether it is, whether something is manifesting in the moment or not, that doesn't change its essential nature. The manifestation can come and go, but you are that love. Fleon, another one in Sweden. You guys in Sweden, my Swedish contingency. Time for a trip to Sweden. Excellent. One Earth, billions of worlds. Yes, that's Muji saying, not mine. Lisa Berry, make knowing yourself more important than what you're trying to do. Yes. Positive Patty. I don't know why I have to say that with an Irish accent. Hi, Positive Patty. Hi, Jeep. As Daniel Suelo says in The Man Who Quit Money, there's not a creature, even a particle in the universe that's self-sufficient. We're all dependent on everybody else. Yes, everything is an interdependent whole. That's what one of Buddha's realizations, and he called it dependent arising. You don't have short without tall. You don't have male without female. You don't have up without down. You do not have all. It's all. The universe is one thing, right? Just like we look at the body as one thing, it's 100 million things operating as one thing. And yet there's a oneness, a beingness, a singularity to this. Well, put this all together, friends. This is what the universe is. And even the universe itself has a dependency. But ultimately there's that logos, that first principle, that which is self-existent. That is the self. And it is not a creator of this. It is immanent in the universe. The universe is the manifestation of it. The universe is the face of God. Sweet. Mary Sykes says, that was from Unity Church that I posted. Yes. It's meant to direct us to our oneness with God as God. Yes. Yes. I recognized it as one of the new thought ideas. Yes. Yeah. But you are that. God is a metaphor for the self. Joseph Campbell says, God is the experience of looking at a tree and going, wow. I like that. That's a living God. You're then, in that moment, you and that tree are one. Right? That one is what we call God. Right? And the many disappears. The river disappears in the ocean. The drop of rain is the ocean. David Elaine, love and appreciation for satsang as usual, UGP and everyone. Wonderful answers to all the diverse questions. We're so happy to sit, listen, and be. I love you guys. Earth, balance in the spine is enlightenment. I'm afraid not. There are lots of people who achieve that balance in enlightenment, in the spine, and are not enlightened. Enlightenment does not depend on anything physical, structural, anatomical at all. It has no dependency on anything other than itself. Truth does not depend on anything to make it true. And enlightenment is recognition of the truth. And that which recognizes the truth must itself be the truth. And it depends on nothing. So I would have to disagree with you on that. Not that I say there's anything wrong with balancing the chakras in your spine and yoga and all of that stuff. I'm just saying it is not a path to enlightenment. It doesn't get you there. Only non-dual self-recognition. And it is the self, the ultimate truth, recognizing itself. There isn't even anyone becoming enlightened. The one who seeks enlightenment disappears. And the awakened one, which is what Buddha means, stands as the eternal reality it has always been. Mary says, George Harrison was my favorite Beatle. He was just a very amazing human being. The fame never went to his head, as it did for the other three. Penny, thank you so much. Another beautiful satsang. You're very welcome. I resonate so much for your exploration of forgiveness. Love you, Sifu. Love you too, Penny. Thanks, GP, for a precious time. Thanks for Monterey. Hello, Alessandra. Eric, so good to see you. Wow, glad to have you here. Weekend INFJ, you're so welcome to Sweden. Thank you. Thank you, my sheik from Faith. Faith, thank you, my sheik. Plan, I second that. Welcome to Sweden. Gee, thank you, guys. Hi, GP. Great show today from Eli. Hello, Eli. And yes, wonderful. Oh, I got through everybody. Wonderful. Well, thank you all for being kind and not inundating me at the last minute with 100 questions. So, thank you all for being here. It is, what can I say? To be able to share this is just the greatest gift. Yeah, just the greatest gift there is. Yeah. What can I say? It's humbling, right? Okay. I mean, there isn't even anyone to become humbled, right? We could say, well, you know, the thoughts come to me, or, you know, the ideas flow through me. But even that's a mistake. There's no me through which this is flowing. That which is the ideas is making the ideas appear, moving the mouth, moving the lips, breathing the air, is all the self. There is no me. There's no GP. There's nobody here but you. So, I love you all. Namaste.